is applied to the operator. So let's listen to what these two sound like together. Hi guys, SKETI here, welcome back to a new tutorial. This time I'm going to show you how to make a really quick POLYSAW chord pad in both Operator in Ableton Live and Serum. So let's get to it. So I'm just going to quickly show you the chords. I've loaded up the Serum here. All it is a sine wave right now, so it's going to sound very basic, but these are the chords. So that's the chord sequence that we're going to work with. The first thing that we need to do in Operator is change it into parallel mode rather than series, because we want all of these different oscillators to work independently and not run into each other. So change it to parallel mode instead of series. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to change the course, because we're only going to use 3 oscillators for this. So we're going to change the course tune for the first one to 0.5, so it's at the lowest octave you can achieve. We'll keep the middle one the same and the other one at 2. So we've now basically spread these sort of an octave below, a middle octave and an octave above. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to change this to saw D, which is the sort of full range saw wave that you can have in the operator. You've got different types, but obviously like 64 times 32 and so on and so forth, but this is the full range saw wave. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make all of these minus 12 decibels. And we can have a quick listen to this now. So we're getting into that sort of polysaw saw wave territory now. Now it is a little bit loud, so I'm going to pull this down about minus 5 decibels. Yep, that's sounding better already. And we're going to change the fine tune of the top one to 5, just to give it sort of that polysaw sound where it sounds like it's moving between, like a chorus effect kind of thing. And just because of that slight pitch shift there, obviously that's going to cause like phasing change and chorus change between the other oscillators here, these two. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the shaper in the filter section, turn soft on and move this up 12 decibels in the shape drive. We're also going to change the filter to OSR type so we can give it a little bit more drive as well, just to add a little bit more grit and harmonic sound in the top end of it as well. And then the last thing I'm going to do is just a slight peak in the top end, just to really give it a little bit more sparkle. So that's a very quick way in Operator to get that POLYSAW chord pad that's used in a lot of dance music. The next thing is we're going to use Serum to do the same thing. Now obviously this will sound slightly different, but the principles are very much the same, but obviously with Serum you can go further in with effects. Now just before I do with the operator, I do have an EQ here just to do some shaping. So obviously if I turn the EQ off and then play it with the EQ on, as you can see, it's taken more of the bottom end out, scooped some of the mids and given a little bit more of a top end sparkle just by taking out this low section. And that's a good point with EQ. Instead of adding in the top end, if you take away in the low, it tricks your brain into thinking that you've added more top end rather than just removing the low end. I'm just going to turn the EQ8 back off and we're going to have a look at the Serum. Now I've already started to set the Serum up, but we can go through everything that I've done. So very similar, the sub oscillator is minus 1 octave and set to sawtooth. The first oscillator with the random turned all the way down is set to the same octave, and again just kept that as a default waveform that comes as you load Serum up, so that's another sawtooth. And oscillator B is plus 1 octave, again random all the way down, and the only thing I've changed is I've turned the unison up to 4 and turned the detune down to 0.11 and the blend down to 34. So this is without any effects. The only thing that I have obviously kept turned on is the compressor in multiband mode and turned the master gain down to 47%. So we can listen to that now. Now the way that this unison works, it does work over the stereo image, and I am going to bring that down a little bit to about 40, just to bring that stereo width in a little bit, because I'm going to add some effects in a second. So it's kept the unison but just brought the stereo width in a little bit, so if I ever mono sum this, it's not going to cancel itself out with phasing issues. So the next thing we're going to add is the hyper dimension, and all I've done with this is set it to retrigger mode, so the hyper always starts when a new chord starts, and I've set the mix to 24%, kept the unison amount the same. I've also turned the dimension size to 4% and the mix to 41%, so this is what that sounds like now. Again, just to add a little bit more unison and bring in, this is basically a short reverb. And the next thing I've added is a chorus, set the BPM mode on and set the rate to 8 bars. Pretty much kept the delay 1 and 2 the same, changed the depth to 9.9 milliseconds because I found basically when the note stopped it had this sort of weird continuation of the chorus. Set the feedback to 86%, set it to high pass filter mode and set the filter to 888 Hz and set the mix to 24%. So this is it without. And as you can hear, there's no real slight difference, but it just adds a little bit more extra polysaw sound to it. The last thing that I've added is an EQ, and this was just a notch with a gain of minus 12.4 decibels at the frequency 460 Hz, and I've kept the Q at 57%. So this is just to take some of the mids out because it felt a little bit strong. And then that's pretty much that. Obviously I could add this EQ8 again just to see what that sounds like. So obviously that EQ8 sounds a little bit more extreme because obviously slightly different sound in Serum. One thing I have forgotten to show you is the filter here. I also turned this on, so I've turned it to high 24 just so I didn't have to use this EQ, so I could obviously keep everything in the box within Serum. So I've turned it to the high pass 24 decibels per octave filter. I've set the cutoff to 224 Hz, turned the resonance up slightly to 14%, and I've turned the fat all the way up to 100%, and this is applied to oscillator A, B and the sub oscillator. So we'll listen to this without and then listen to it with. So just to bring out that bottom end, because within this piece of music that I'm making, if we listen to it with the sub, just solo those two together. Actually that's the bass. So turn the sub on and the pad. So that sub oscillator, which is just a sine wave, is adding all of that bottom end in. And what I can do as well, just to show you, is I do have some reverbs attached to this in these sends, which I've just turned reverb A and B, and I'll switch between the operator and the Serum version that we've made. So let's start with the operator. So this is what the operator chords are like. Just go around the bigger chords here. So a nice little bit of reverb just to sort of really add the space to the sound, and I turned the EQ8 on there just to bring out the bottom, reduce the bottom end. And also let's listen to the Serum by itself, obviously with the reverb. And now what we could do actually is listen to both of these together and layer them together, and we could obviously do a little bit of a mix. So I'm just going to bring these down minus 5 decibels each, just so it doesn't clip too much. I do have a glue compressor on the end. Now this auto filter here is, there's some automation in this section which is not actually happening, so we don't need to worry about that too much. But yeah, obviously this EQ8 that I can turn on as well. Just to, what I could do is actually stick this on the end of the operator, so it's within. So this is an instrument rack, so it's within the operator there. So that EQ is not applied to this Serum, but it is applied to the operator. So let's listen to what these two sound like together. So as much as these two different POLYSAW chord pads do sound different, when you lay them together, obviously it adds a richer texture. Anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and found it useful. If you have, leave a comment below. Any questions you've got or suggestions for future videos, leave a comment below. Leave a like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you, to see these videos more in the future. I also stream live on Twitch most weeknights now, so that's Monday, Wednesday, Thursday and Sunday, where we get together. I make some music, people send me tunes to listen to, and I play some bass as well. We've got a great community over there. Anyway guys, I shall see you next time. Bye.
Everybody jump up, come on!